God said it, He wrote it down, I believe it. I believe what the book says. Hello everyone, this is Pastor Mike, and this is the talk show Hell Hates, and the more you listen, the more you figure out why. I am online and I am live today. We're going to continue our talk, left over from last Tuesday, about why I'm not a Catholic. If I believed in Catholicism, and I believed the doctrine, and I believed in Il Papa, and I believed that I should bow in front of a statue with the name Mary on it, if I believed that, I would be doing it. And that's something that's very simple, and some people just can't comprehend that. When James starts talking about faith and works, he's making what amounts to be the most obvious of conclusions and statements, that you actually do what you believe in. Everybody does. Everybody does what they believe in. If people believe that following the Catholic faith is what gets them to heaven, they do the Catholic faith. They go to Mass, they pray to Mary, they eat the cookie, they dash and sprinkle in the holy water, they confess to a priest. That's what they do. I don't believe that. If a person doesn't believe in God, he believes that he himself is his own God, or that he's the result of 15 billion years of evolution or whatever, you don't find the guy going to church every Sunday. You don't find him behind a pulpit preaching. That doesn't happen. You do what you believe in. And so I believe the Bible. I believe every word of God is pure. I believe it is incorruptible. I believe it is incorrupted. And I believe that it applies today. Had a situation this morning where I mentioned something about it last night. I had to go deal with what amounted to be a contract dispute between basically our church, and I'm not going to bring the name of the company involved. It's no big deal. We didn't have to bring lawyers in on jet planes and stuff like that. I mean, no court appearance or anything like that. But it was a dispute, and to me, it was over what was in a contract. And we're having some work done here at the church because at our homecoming, the sewer line blew inside of our kitchen during our homecoming. And so we're trying to find a contractor that'll repair the floor. Well, we thought we had one. We had a contract, had a written contract, everything spelled out. They told us what it was going to cost. We agreed to pay the money. We paid the money. Paid the money. We fulfilled all of our obligation. The contractor they came over and said, oh, well, it's going to require much more than this, and it's going to cost more money. And I sat down with them and I said, look, we have a contract. Here's what the contract says. It's a written contract. Here's what the contract says. The contract says that you're going to do this and this and this. And the contract actually said that it's actually over and above what is normal. So that's why you're charging us more, and we paid the extra money. But now you're telling us that it's more than what you originally thought, and now you want us to pay more money on something that we already agreed on. You're wanting to add to the contract. And I could not make them see that. I could not make them see that. And so finally I said, why don't we just do this? You've already sent the material over here. We agreed to pay the material. It's in our church now. We own it. So why don't you deduct your installation cost, and we'll just void the contract? Well, okay, yeah, we can do that. And that's what we did. And that really, I was talking to my father-in-law, who is also the deacon here at Bethel Church, and we were over there talking to him, and I said, Sterling, this is why I make such a big deal about the Bible. It's a contract. The Bible is a contract between God and man. There is an old covenant, the Old Testament. That contract, here's the neat thing. The contractor died. The person that Israel at the base of Mount Sinai had the contract with, he's dead now. So the contract is null and void. You cannot have a contract with a dead person. It doesn't exist. There is no place in the universe where you can have a contract with a dead person. The contractor of the old covenant died. But, so now he's risen again. Now there's a new covenant, a new testament, a new contract. And the terms of that contract is, will you abide in belief? That's our part. That is our responsibility, to abide in belief. God's responsibility then, because God is faithful, that's a legal term, by the way. When you act in bona fide, you are acting in good faith. God is faithful, number one, which means that He is putting His good faith and name on the line by offering this contract. He is also just, which means that God Himself cannot violate the terms of His own contract. He's just. I love this. This is what you get from watching Judge Judy every day. All right? You just learn a little bit about contracts. And here's what I learned. God wrote a contract out to us, and with a contract there is an offer and there is an acceptance. If there is no offer and an acceptance, it's not a contract. It's not. It's not a contract. There's other words for it, but it's not a contract. And so there's an offer by God and an acceptance by us. And I'll tell you this old boy believes that you've got to accept the contract. God didn't offer it to everybody carte blanche, and everybody gets to go to heaven now. That is not in the New Testament. It's not there. It's not in the Old Testament either, but it's not there. And so there's an offer by God. There's an acceptance by me. There are terms and conditions. I must abide in faith. I must believe and continue in that belief. God, however, has requirements on His part. He gives me eternal life. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And here's what you learn. And this is what I brought up at our little contract meeting. I said, here is the document that you signed and we signed. We agreed to this document. There is a list of specifications on exactly what this contractor was supposed to do, and my wife initialed those pages. And when I didn't know the guy was going through those pages, and I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Well, that's the specifications on how the job is to be done." And he said, "Is that your signature?" I said, "No, but it's my wife's." And I said, "Whatever is in that paper, we'll go along with, because that's what we agreed to." I knew that I couldn't get away with something, and I said, "That's what we'll agree to." They could not show me in the specifications what they were wanting to add to the job. And I said, "It's your paper. We signed it, but it's your paper. You're the one that put it in there, and this is what we agreed to." And here's what you find out. A written contract, once agreed upon and signed by both parties, cannot be altered verbally afterwards. Can't do it. These people who are going around with all these extra biblical revelations. Oh, wait a minute. No, God told me that. No, you don't understand. God told me this. I saw God, and He told me that. It's like Kenneth Copeland telling everybody that God, in an extra biblical revelation, told Kenny that if Kenny was born again, Kenny could have died on the cross for mankind's sins. Kenny is in violation of a contract. God offered Kenneth Copeland the same contract He offered me. And one of the conditions of that contract, at the end of the contract, Book of Revelation, you don't add to or take away the words from this book. You don't do that. Kenneth Copeland adds to the words. He tells everybody that it's from God. Everybody goes, "Oh, okay, so you talked to God and God said that it was this way? Oh, okay, well, we believe that. Kenny wouldn't lie to us, would he?" Doesn't matter. Not even God can alter the written contract orally. Can't do it. So I've had my mind on contracts. So I might have started making notes I'm going to put some work into this, put some effort into it. And one of these days, if I ever get done with the Fourth Kingdom series, I'm gonna deal with the contract. It has everything to do with salvation and understanding salvation. It has everything to do with it. There are right ideas and wrong ideas about salvation. And if you try to negate the words of God's contract with mankind, can't help it. That's what the contract says. So why is the devil working overtime to try to change the Bible? Why is he doing that? He is altering the contract. And he is giving mankind, he is presenting mankind with a document that God didn't sign. The new Bibles are forgeries, and they have God's forged signature on them. But God didn't sign it. God didn't write it. He had nothing to do with it. Something to be watching for. I'm excited. I would like to do that. I'd like to do that Watchman now, but I don't. I don't have the notes ready. I don't have the time. Just don't have anything. Anyway, got some things we're going to deal with today. Glad you could be with us today. The email address on the bottom of the screen, PastorMikeOnline@gmail.com. You can write in with your questions and comments. I have already... I got to do this. Did you see the video of the lady going nuts at the floor of the House of Representatives yesterday? Did you see? Not just any lady. A congressional transcriptionist, a woman hired by the Congress of the United States of America, acting in an official capacity, sitting there day after day after day, sitting there and doing shorthand or whatever it is she does. She is responsible for the congressional record. She's one of the people, I'll say, responsible for the You've heard about the congressional record, don't you? Have you ever heard congressmen when they're in a debate in the floor of the House or the Senate? The chair recognized the esteemed representative from the state of California, Congressman such and such. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that my comments, I reserve the right or something like that for my comments to be amended and revised without objection. And basically, you know what he's doing? He's been given, like, I don't know, 8 minutes on the floor of Congress to make this speech. And when the 8 minutes or whatever, it's 10 minutes or whatever, when that time's up, gavel strikes down and he must yield the floor according to the rules. But what he has already set up for himself is that even if he gets moved off the floor after 10 minutes, he can issue a much broader statement in writing to whatever person, maybe that transcriptionist or someone who is in charge of the congressional archive, and have his statements. He can have this broader statement added to the congressional record. A lot of things that you say, well, so this is in the congressional record. So-and-so said this in front of Congress. They probably didn't say that in front of Congress. They wrote it up afterwards, and they were given permission by Congress to have that injected into the congressional record. Just thought I'd throw that out to you. But here's this woman now. She is responsible for the congressional record. She sits and she writes down everything that people say as part of the